This episode of the Brutally Speaking podcast is brought to you by On Point Pomade. Keep your beard and hair looking on point with their line of pomades and beard oils over at onpointpomade.com. Use our code BSP15 at checkout and get 15% off your total purchase order. So thanks again to On Point Pomade for sponsoring our show. This episode is also sponsored by the Bean Bastard Coffee. Head over to thebeanbastard.com and pick up any one of their delicious hand-roasted coffees. Coffee lovers will also enjoy their hand-cut and handmade espresso candles and soaps as well. If you're in the Buffalo, New York area, head to their store located at 448 Elmwood Avenue. And thanks again to the Bean Bastard for supporting this show. The Speaking podcast is proudly sponsored by Rockabilia.com. With over 500,000 officially licensed items in their online store, you're guaranteed to find something you need. Use our code BRUTALLY and get 10% off your total purchase order. Now on to the show.
People say you have to have a lot of passion for what you're doing. This rings true because it's so hard that if you don't, any rational person would give up. It's really hard. And you have to do it over a sustained period of time. So if you don't love it, and if you're not having fun doing it, you're gonna give
up. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the last of my eight crazy days, 8 crazy episodes. I don't know what this is. This is me basically getting you all the content I've been sitting on my computer in a timely manner because I really enjoyed talking with everyone, and I knew that it would be months before some of these episodes dropped, so I wanted to get them out because I'm also basically getting ready to do the same thing where I have 3 or 4 conversations that I'm getting ready to start doing. So I'm just going to be making more content, and I want to get these out in a timely manner. So this episode's guest is Justin Foley of Killswitch Engage, of Lybica, of Blood Has Been Shed, if you remember that band. And this was a lot of fun. Justin is someone that is actually really, he's just forever going to be tied to the pandemic to me. With the fact that other than Damon from A Virtue at this point, he is still the last person I basically did an in-person chat with, and I always will remember just the background of being backstage between my chat with JB from August Burns Red and Justin, just how much information there was coming in a span of like an hour, and how differently we were taking that information in, from joking and laughing about it to, shit, I think this is really serious, to literally the next day everything fucking shut down. And I don't want to be such a bummer about this or be so heavy-handed in this intro, but it's crazy to think and have someone be so tied to a very impactful thing that not only happened to me, but happened to everyone. So, Justin is kind of forever tied in my mind to this pandemic that we all went through. And it's interesting, too, because Justin is someone that, and as you'll hear me say to him in the chat, he's kind of one of the more interesting parts of the band. He doesn't do a ton of press. He pretty much isn't on socials. Most of the band is not on socials. Killswitch kind of exists in the old world where whatever they want you to know about them, they will put out. They do very limited press. A lot of the things that they do are handpicked for them to do, and it's one of those where it's not the norm anymore. We live in this 24-hour news cycle now where people are telling you what they're eating for breakfast, what they did last night, where they're at, what they're doing. And it becomes interesting when people live the way that we all used to live, where you're not online, you're just living your life. And when you see someone, that's when you get to find out what they've been up to. And so with Justin, it's been really cool because, like I said, with him being tied to kind of the pandemic happening and it becoming this real world thing, it's interesting to see someone who is, like I said, the more soft-spoken, quiet one coming out with a new project. And for him to not just be the drummer of it, but to kind of be the quote-unquote front face of the band, being the guitar player, being the name that everyone knows, and kind of being up front now. And that's really interesting to me. It's interesting to see the shift in who he is as a musician and learning more about him in a different language. Not necessarily spoken, but musical, since this is an instrumental band. And to me, I feel like I've gotten to know a lot more about who Justin is through Lybica, listening to the record. And unfortunately, for you, you're going to have to wait about another 2 weeks for it to come out. But I will say it's really good. It definitely has all of the stamps of the influences that Justin brings up when wanting to start the band. But I don't think it does that thing where a lot of new bands sound so reliant on their influences, because I think that's the perk of everyone in the band being as old as they are, is that they're able to still find their way through it, through their influences. But I have to say, I'm very excited to hear where the band goes from here, the growth that they have as a band, as individuals, learning their newer instruments and finding their respective voices, collectively and individually. To me, that is always been the fascinating thing about finding and following band people who are known for one thing and then start going off and doing other things, because it allows you to get to know more of them. And it's interesting to think about it like that, because it's in such a way that it's not a traditional sense of like, okay, you tell me you like these things, whatever. I feel like music is so personal. It's your own fingerprints, basically. It's your own voice. So for you to be able to articulate yourself in a new set of skills, new set of languages, however you want to articulate that, it's interesting because you get to learn something new about someone that you've known for so long. And to be able to look at them in a different capacity, I think really creates a fuller picture of who they are. So with all of that said, let's get into my conversation with Justin, and I'll talk to you on the other side of it. So, it's really funny in thinking about, the quote unquote prep for this, knowing that you and I are going to be talking. It was kind of interesting to think about the last time you and I talked, which was literally the day before the whole world just fucking went to shit. You were here in Grand Rapids on that Killswitch Light the Torch.
Yeah, right.
And you and I had talked about, just how the West Coast dates were kind of starting to, I think it was Oregon was starting to kind of be like, it's 50%, now it's going to be 25. And it's just kind of weird to think how far we've come since that conversation, literally with the pandemic, literally with touring kind of now coming back into the full swing. And, you were kind of the impetus of everything. And now here we are, 2.5 years later. And it's kind of weird to think about just how much has changed since that conversation.
2.5 years. Ugh. miserable well, 2.5 years, man. Oof.
Not entirely. You got this record out as a result of it.
Yeah, that's good. At least something positive came out of it. But yeah, man, I was trying to remember it because I was like, I'm pretty sure I couldn't remember specifically when we talked, and I had forgotten that it was exactly like the day before. Yeah, which is crazy. And then everything just started going just off the rails so quickly. I mean, being a sports fan, I remember all the stuff that was going on with the Big East tournament was canceled, and NBA. I think the NBA canceling games was like the first thing that was just like, what? Really? That's crazy. And then all the venues are getting scaled down, and we had this stuff in the Northeast that was all getting shut down. And yeah, it is crazy to think about how your mindset was like, okay, we'll go home for a little bit and then everything will be okay. And then it's like, maybe nothing will be okay ever again. It's like all over the place.
It was just weird to think about. And I mean, I guess this is kind of a bigger narrative and not necessarily for you or I, but just something I have been thinking about the last couple of days is just, even talking to JB like an hour before you and I did, the difference in information, the difference in how we were handling what we were being given and being told. And,
it was kind of jokey, like, oh, we're just overreacting, to then when I was talking with you, it's like, I don't know, games are getting canceled. Now we're hearing different things at venues, and I don't know, to then even at the very end of the show, my wife was very adamant about, like, can we go now? Can we go? Can we go? Can we leave? And I'm like, no, I'm going to say my goodbyes to everyone really quick. Like, I know I'm going to see everyone in a week, maybe, in Detroit, but, I want to say goodbye to Josh and everybody. And, in hindsight, like, it's like I told her, I was like, that's why I always make a point to say my goodbyes to people, because, I don't know if like, it was 2 years before I saw half of the people that I used to see at least every couple months. Right. And, sadly, I've had some people pass away in that time too. So it's like, I'm a strong proponent of, like, say your thank yous and your goodbyes and all that kind of stuff, because, like, it's easier to be like, I'm glad I did, than versus I wish I would have. Totally.
You feel some way about somebody, tell them.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, if this hasn't shown you that, if this hasn't taught people that lesson, I mean, what's going to,
I would like to think that this would teach people to think more about those things and being more in the moment and being present for not only themselves, but for others, especially when we were isolated from one another. And it was, I think, in light of us being able to do shit like this, or having the world at our fingertips where we can communicate with whomever, I think it really put an emphasis back onto reestablishing one-on-one relationships with people, and, kind of putting forth the effort into them, because I don't think anyone realized that, like, there was going to be a time where we literally couldn't be around people.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of people. I mean, one of the things that happens when you tour all the time is you make friends all over the country, and you usually see them sporadically, but you still see them every now and then. And there are people that, I haven't seen them in 3 going on 4 years, which sounds like a really long time. I mean, you think, like, wow, I've been friends with this person for 4 years. And it's like, no, I haven't seen that person in years and years and years. So, and I think finally this Killswitch tour coming up is probably going to be about as close to normal as anything's been so far. And we're going to get to actually see some friends that we haven't been able to see in forever, and get to hang out and get to, do a few things and sort of have it feel a little bit more normal, because touring during it was definitely a lot different, but we just had to do what you had to do to get through it, and we got through our tours. So in that way it was a success, but it wasn't the same at all. It was very strange.
I feel like that's something that, I know I talked to Josh when you guys are on that tour with Lamb of God and everybody, where basically I was like, how has it been? Because I know one of the big parts for touring, other than literally the 2 hours you're on stage, because it's a hurry up and wait game, that really the only thing that makes it I don't want to say worthwhile, but really makes it enjoyable is the being able to go out and see the different parts of the cities you're in, getting to see the friends maybe that are coming to see you. And when you can't really do either of those, and it's solely the time you have on stage, and even that's kind of a little bit different, because I mean, the few shows I went to that were some of the first, it was a lot of trepidation. Like, I felt like it was kind of a refiguring out process for everyone. Like, can I crowd surf? Do we want to be in a pit? Do we want to be at a show? And then even, maybe from you guys, where it's like, some like the guys who aren't stuck behind a drum kit, it's like, how close and interactive do I still want to be? How close do I want to get? And it seems like it's taken until kind of recently for things to kind of feel back to normal in that capacity.
Yeah, at first I felt guilty. The first time I went to a show, I felt guilty going to a show. And then I was like, I shouldn't be doing this. And then I was like, should we even be touring? Are we being irresponsible expecting a group of people to come together into a room to be touring? Like, is that something that we should look at and not do? So there's all kinds of crazy stuff that goes through your brain, but everything just got off the rails that no one could have ever foreseen.
Kind of last question on that before we segue a little bit into the why you're actually here. I've not really talked to anyone that was kind of one of the first. I mean, that package tour was one of the first big tours to come around where it felt like, okay, touring of this size is back.
Was that the Slipknot one?
Yeah. Was there a lot of, and I guess I can only speak to you necessarily, if you don't want to answer it, that's fine, but was there a lot of trepidation between everybody in doing it? Because I know everyone on that package are friends. And so the fact that, like, everyone's kind of having to be distanced even from friends on the tour has got to be hard and weird.
I think everyone was itching to play again, and then once we thought that it was a safe environment to go play again, with our jobs, everyone needed to go back to work at some point. We need to go back to work too. So even though it was going to be different, and something that's just as simple as having a day off and going out to eat somewhere, all of that was done. Like we couldn't do that on tour, and we just wanted to make sure we got through it as much as we could, and we did. But I would say no one really enjoyed it, and it was a little bit of a bummer. But obviously the shows are super enjoyable because we got to play again, and it was such a great feeling to, at one point think that this was taken away from you, and who knows how long it's going to be taken away from you, and to be able to go and do it again, and to and also to see everybody that's there doing something that they love doing, going to shows, and that being a part of people's lives again was super. It was super, I don't know, rewarding. I don't know, sounds weird, but just fun to see. It was a good. I think it went about as well as it possibly could have gone.
I agree. It's interesting though, because out of this, as we sort of alluded to in the very beginning, you have this new, and I might be pronouncing it incorrectly. Is it Lybica?
It is. Nailed it.
Okay.
On the first try.
There we go. I always it's funny living here in the Midwest for over half my life now, but growing up out east, I was like, it's the vowels that want to like throw where the enunciation goes on the word and how you do it. So I'm always like, is it the East Coast way or is it something else? But yeah, so like, obviously this sounds like it came at the start of the pandemic. I know when you and I had talked previously, though, you were talking interestingly enough about how you had wanted to do something kind of more in the post-rock kind of vein. I think even citing, Reject Yourself, like how that kind of fits more of like what you were looking for, like the end of that song, to do something more like that. So is this something that you had actually been sitting on some of these demos maybe, and then just decided to revisit once the pandemic happened? Or is this all brand new once the pandemic happened?
No, there is some stuff that, there's some stuff that was sitting around in my I don't know what to do with folder. So, and yeah, I just write like some stuff, and some stuff seems like it might end up being Killswitch stuff. So it goes in, show it to the guys. Other stuff, it's like, oh, I know they're not going to like that. Some stuff I'm like, well, maybe they'll like it or maybe they won't. And it's sort of just throw it out there. And, this is just some stuff that had been sitting around for a while. And two of my friends here, Joey and Doug, that I had been friends with for probably since I moved, just about 5 or 6 years ago, 6+ years ago, maybe, or somewhere in that area. They're musicians, and we had talked a lot about just sort of playing together one day, like friend musicians do. Like you just sort of, ramble on about, we'll jam together someday, man, and then never do it. And so I'm like, hey, I got these cool ideas, and I want it to sound like I want to be in a band that sounds like ISIS, and it's like that kind of cool vibe, and Caspian stuff, and I want to try to blend some cigaros into it and all this stuff. And they're like, yeah, that sounds great, and then, whatever. And so then I'm just sort of sitting around, and I'm not going to see the Killswitch guys for God knows how long, because I don't live anywhere near them. And Adam lives far away too. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I just was like, hey guys, do you want to, I had a couple that I guess were newer-ish, and I sent a couple of them to the other dudes, and they were into it. So we said, all right, well, whatever, let's just play and have something to do. We didn't have a drummer, which is funny because Doug is also a drummer, and Doug didn't want to drum anymore. Not like forever, but he wanted to be in a band doing something else. So he wanted to play bass. So there's me and him playing instruments that we barely know what to do with. And then Joey, who's an actual guitar player, is probably like, oh, cool, my friends are trying to learn a new instrument. How cute. I'll hang out with them. It's like, what are these guys doing? But like everyone was into it, and we just started plugging away. And when you have all that time and you get a new hobby like that, it's amazing how far you can dive into it. And so I just sort of got crazy with just watching rig rundown videos all the time, and just going off on looking at new pedals and gear and just going nuts on it. And now I am apparently a wannabe guitar player.
Now, are you? Because around the pandemic, I decided to upgrade all of my stuff, which you can see behind me, and actually getting ahead, getting a new cab and pedals and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Did it seem as overwhelming to you where you're like, do I go with like a Kemper and just do the plug-in thing and do that versus actual having tangible gear that you can adjust knobs and tones and do all that yourself and figure it out?
It was
what
very
route did you go?
Well, I already had a Kemper. The guys were using them, and I was like, okay, well, that looks pretty easy. I can make real easy demos with that. I don't need to have a lot of stuff that I don't know how to use, which is the main thing. Kemper's pretty simple. Even though it's also very overwhelming, it's very simple.
It looks so overwhelming.
Yeah, it really is. But I was just like, hey, guys, what profile do you use? Literally email it to me. And then I just put it in, and then I use that one. And I barely touch it. I've sort of now I'm getting into tinkering with stuff a little bit more, but still. So ironically enough, the Kemper was a much easier way to do it than traditional gear. But when I started doing this stuff, I was thoroughly embarrassed at how little I knew about guitar after being in bands for 25, 30 years or whatever it is. Like not knowing even the first thing about what pickups do to sound, like just embarrassing stuff that you think I would know at this point, or at least have some kind of inkling to what they mean. But nope, it was like all it was new. No, I was just looking at guitars. I was kind of picking guitars like the way Mac and Always Sunny does, and he just holds one and it looks cool, and I'm like, yeah, that one looks cool. I'll get it. Like, oh, it's a P90. What does that mean? Like, no idea.
Well, I mean, I feel like they always say grab the instrument or grab whatever it is that's going to inspire you to pick it up and actually play it. So, I mean, to a degree, there is some truth in it looks cool because, yeah, then I'm going to play it. And I mean, especially when you start getting into some of these different guitars where they can be, $2, $3, $4, $10,000 and stuff like that. Oh, sometimes I look at some of those, I'm like, is it really worth that much? I don't think so. But I mean, I've even started going down the rabbit hole of, getting different pickups for a while. I was like, EMGs, those are the things. They work for so many bands. Like, why fuck with a good thing? Like, if it works for all of these bands that I'm into, right, it can't be bad. And then, here comes along Ken Susi and his Fishman Fluence pickups and all that kind of stuff. And now everyone's going to those. And you're like, well, they all use DMGs and they switch. So is there something I should be looking into now with that?
Yeah, the power of endorsements. I definitely understand. It's like, oh, that guy's got this. I watched Caspian Rig Rundown, and I have a Strymon El Cap because of it. like that kind of thing.
Yeah, thankfully I don't do that with my vinyl collecting because I think after watching some people's setups, I'd like, oh, that does sound really good. And then you look up like those speakers or the system itself, and it's like $12,000. And you're like, man, I don't know. I don't listen to my records that much to put $12,000 investment into the system.
Yeah.
Just to be like a foot and a half away from it at all times.
Right.
One of the funniest things I think about reading the press release for the band, and I feel like it just is so, it felt so like, that's life. That's really how life is as you get older. It was, it said that, Joey had mentioned about how, he'd go somewhere for a beer that he like was a regular at. And then people would be like, do you know Justin? You guys should jam. You guys should know each other. And I was like, that literally is how you meet new people when you get older. Like, it's not like you randomly are at a party and like you're just talking to someone. Like sometimes that happens, but a lot of times it's like, do you know so-and-so? No. You should. I bet you guys would be really good friends, I bet. So it was just really weird to see in a press release for a new band that it's like, that's essentially how he became a part of the band, was enough people were like, hey, you should know so-and-so, do you? And then it finally happened.
Getting set up by bartenders, right?
Yeah.
It's part of
Who says drinking doesn't bring people together?
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought in honor of being on this, I would have to have a beer. I mean, I'm sure most people that you have probably do the same, but I figured, why not?
Not really, actually. Really? It's actually surprisingly been a point of some people won't do it. Famously, Scott Stapp turned it down because he said it would be a real, what's the word that they used? It basically was going to interfere with his new lease on sobriety, which I understand. But then I'm also like, well, then you probably should never play a venue with a bar. Just always play VFW halls. Because if you're worried about being on a show that talks about beers not in the actual interview or the chat, then you have a way bigger problem than my show.
Well,
what are you drinking, though? What do we got?
Wicked Weed Pernicious.
Well, I assume that's somewhere local to you in Florida?
It's Asheville Brewery.
North Carolina?
North Carolina, yep.
Yeah.
But they distribute pretty well, and it's a pretty tasty beverage.
I, up until going to Chicago about a week ago, was on a sober August. But upon going to a Bears preseason game and then a few hours later going to a White Sox Tigers game, I decided that it was pretty pointless to go to a game and not drink.
Sporting events, man, they'll get you.
And I don't even like either of the teams. I just wanted to, like, my wife was like, let's go to some football game. And I was like, yes. And then it was just the Bears were the closest. And then I was like, hey, the White Sox are playing. I've never been to that stadium, so let's go to that one.
Do you have a stadium? Do you have like a stadium counter going at all, or just?
I haven't been to that many. Typically, I end up going to Wrigley at least once a year to go see the Braves because that's as close as the Braves come to the Midwest. To me, that's like 3 hours. And then,
unless sometimes if they play the Tigers, which they do,
they only play the
3 years or 4 years.
Ooh, maybe. Usually because they do the summer league, they pretty much never play each other during the regular season. I can't tell you the last time that they played. The Tigers have gone there, but they've not played in Detroit in probably a good 6-7 years at least, because that would be a way easier drive for me. But I'm actually going to a Braves game in about a month from now, actually.
Still riding high from that World Series?
Fuck yeah, man. And you know what's been really funny is the bar I was working at, I wasn't working the night they clinched and were going, and I didn't end up working the night that we won. And I'm on the team, but and I remember like when they had clinched to go to the World Series, someone's like, oh, all these fair weather fans coming out of nowhere. And I was like, motherfucker, I have been a fan since the year before they won last time. Like, you want to talk about a drought? Almost my entire life of liking this team has been abysmal. Just watching them like lose to all the upcoming dynasties of like the Yankees, which I know you're a fan of, which is really hard watching that Derek Jeter stuff, watching that stuff. I was like, fucking.
I was happy for Freeman. I like Freddie Freeman a lot. I especially like him because he brought his cat to spring training all the time. So I was way into him. So I was glad to see him win, and I was hoping the Yankees would sign him.
I'm kind of. It's one of those sometimes. Like Freeman is one of the first free agents in a long time where. Like, I'm glad he won his ring with us and all that kind of stuff. But I really got to say, like, it's been so tumultuous and weird because, like, I'll see him play for the Dodgers. I'm like, I want to not like you, but I don't know if you're playing this sympathy card and being like, well, my agent is the one that fucked me and made me leave. So I'm not entirely sure, like, if I still want to blame him. But ultimately, it's like, you're the one that signed the deal. You're the one that has the can change everything and say yay or nay. And to me, it's like, I think because you were so beloved and you're always looked at as a good guy, the narrative changed once you went to the Dodgers. And it's like, I think he wanted to still play at his home state, play for the Dodgers, get all this money and do all this stuff and still be loved by the old fan base. It's like, you can't have it all ways, man. And
It'll soften. It will. When they have like the World Series reunions, everybody's going to love him and he'll be there. All the Braves fans will be cheering. It'll be all right. He'll be fine. He'll be just fine with his money and cats.
How are you feeling about your Yankees this year? I mean, Aaron Judge is just going on a fucking tear.
Yeah, he's good.
Understatement of the day.
Can he bat 9 times? All this nonsense the first like 3 months where they started comparing him to the 98 Yankees. I was just like, give me a break. Relax. This is virtually the same lineup that's been mediocre to upper mediocre for the last 3 years or whatever it's been. We'll see what happens. And now they can't win to save their lives, and everybody's comparing them to the 1990 Yankees, which is also a little much. But at least the 98 comparisons aren't there anymore, which is ridiculous. So I don't know. I mean, it's been a little annoying that they pretend that they're a poor franchise now, and it's all half measures. They're just going half measures on everything, so it's just kind of annoying. But what are you gonna do?
I don't know. It's so weird because like I had said probably 4 or 5 years ago, I had said this team will be, if we can keep our core of like Acuna, Albies, Freeman, Dansby sort of at the time, some of our pitching staff, and the farm system we had at the time, which we've actually been able to maintain most of the good parts. I was like, we'll be competitive starting like last year is where I thought we'd be like kind of turning the corner, maybe getting into the late playoff runs, be viable for a World Series like this year. So the last when I made that comment to friends when they were like, "Oh, I didn't know you're a Braves fan or like baseball or sports in general," it was kind of funny to be like, "Shit, we made the playoffs. Shit, we're can't beat the Dodgers. Shit, we're a game away from the World Series. Now we're in the World Series and won it." And it's like this year, it's like I don't know. Like I was kind of trepidatious. Like we couldn't beat the fucking Mets to save our lives, and now we just swept them in a series. Yeah. And I'm kind of like, all right, like. Can we pull this off? Like we're doing better than last year, and last year we barely snuck in. So right. I don't know, but I mean anymore, it's like who gets hot, who goes down with a major injury, who comes up out of nowhere. Like you never know. Baseball, I think, is one of the. I mean, I guess any sport really is just one of those where it's all timing and luck and who's hot when they need to be.
True. Yeah.
Have you made it out to any Yankees games this year?
No.
No.
Nope. Yeah, I haven't been to a game in a while now.
I was gonna say, firing back the question to you, how many stadiums have you knocked off?
A lot. Touring helps a lot. Adam and I have made a point to try to go to as many as possible, and he, I think, is. If he's not done, he might only have like one more to go. He's really close, and I have, I think, 5 more. And it was 4, except for Texas having their brand new one. So now I can't claim Texas anymore. But I have 5 left.
Do you buy something from each stadium?
No. I just have. I just go. I think Pittsburgh so far is my favorite.
What about Pittsburgh Stadium do you like?
I just love it. It just seems like a ballpark. It's the right size. It has a gorgeous backdrop with the bridges and the city back there. The food and drink, the concessions there are awesome. It's just it's in a good spot in the city. All of it's great, and been lucky to go there a bunch of times because we played the venue that's like a block away from it a couple times when they've had games and had off days there too. So snuck in to see games a few times there, and it's a pretty awesome place.
I think so far, I think I'm biased. I think Truist is because it's new. And it's seemingly what a lot of newer stadiums are doing, where it's not built to just be the game. It's built to be a whole entertainment area. The food's great. They have like a brewery on site, so they do like specific beers for various nights and so forth, which is awesome. But it's also around, like there's a venue down there and restaurants and so forth. Like they built everything around the new park. Right. And I think that really works. And the ability to kind of travel around the stadium and take in the game from all different vantage points is really nice. Versus you're just like, I'm at the game and here's my seat and this is where I sit and that's about all there is.
Yeah.
But I did like St. Louis. We went to a St. Louis game a couple months ago, and for being an older park, and it was supposed to rain really bad and it just got really dark and ominous. But like having the arch like in the center field or right field over there was kind of cool, and seeing all that. Like, yeah. I think it is fun when the city is kind of somehow a part of the game.
Definitely. I lived there for a while, and I went to games there, and it's a really nice park.
Going back to the record, though.
Sure.
So how? So I was kind of really impressed with the record. It sounds really good, but I didn't have really any information on who recorded it, who mastered it, all that kind of stuff. So who had a hand in all that, or was that all kind of a collection of you?
No, definitely not me.
Well, I meant you as the band, the people.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely not us. We went to Jonathan Nunez from Torch's studio in Miami, and he tracked everything. And he had really great insight on tone and really got a lot of stuff that we wanted. As far as like getting some of the heaviness there, and as far as having it sound like a real, like having it sound like a band. I wanted the drums to sound very, very real, very anti-modern metal drum sound, I guess it would be. And yeah, it was great. It was an awesome experience. And like I said, how Doug and I were playing fairly new instruments, it was pretty nerve-wracking. It's one thing to stand in the room and kind of jam with people, and it's another thing to have the red light on when you're recording and tracking. So that was pretty. I was nervous. I was very nervous, but it went great. Jonathan was awesome, and then Will, who lives in Connecticut, and he has a studio called The Radar, and he's in a band called Psalm. It's a really awesome band. He mixed it. I sort of fell into getting introduced. I haven't met him yet, but I sort of got introduced to him through Daryl, that was in this band called The Cancer Conspiracy. That was one of my absolute all-time favorite bands, and probably the best. Maybe my favorite record ever. My favorite record ever of any album, but it's the best like instrumental record I've ever heard. It's old, relatively old. It's probably early 2000s that it came out, so kind of before-ish that instrumental music or post-rock or post-metal was really like you could find a lot of bands that did it. It seemed like it was kind of early, like 2001 and 2. It seems early for that for me. Unless I'm just out of it. But anyway, so I met Daryl online through some other thing, and then he was doing it with Will, and Will had done some stuff with Caspian, so I was immediately smitten because I love Caspian. And so we just sort of ended up talking about some stuff, and we sent that to him to mix it, and he did a great job with the mix. And he mastered it too, and then that was that. And we're really stoked on how it came out, and hopefully you can't tell that two guys are playing new instruments.
I think that's
I think you can tell. I hear stuff now, and I'm like, oh God, how did they not hear that when we tracked it? One more shot at it, but whatever.
Well, I mean, a couple of things to that. One of my favorite stories and recent guests, probably in the last few months, was having Phil from All That Remains on. Talking about the 20 years of the fall of Ideals and just recording with Adam D. And I was like, I think Adam is sort of notorious in a funny way of just like, nope, do it again. And just stuff like that. Like, so I know most of your recorded output that most people would know. I mean, it's all been Adam for the most part, other than the one record. And I don't remember if you tracked with, I'm trying to think of who did the first self-titled record. Because I know Adam and you guys tried to do it with somebody else, and then I think maybe only the drums and bass got done tracking with whoever did that record.
For which one?
The first self-titled record. I'm sorry, the second self-titled record.
The second one, yeah. That was with Brendan O'Brien.
Okay. So I mean, for the most part, most of your recorded stuff has been done with one person.
Yeah.
How did you find this to be, working with someone different and kind of, I guess learning a different vocabulary literally in the instrument that you're playing, and also with the person who's recording you and trying to get whatever out of you?
It was it's at this point, Adam and I are such good friends after so many years, after 20 years, that it's making a record with someone that you really know well and that you can joke around with and whatever. And he has no problems saying that was fucking awful. What are you doing? And I'm like, I know, that sucks. Or it's just him just playing something and like looking in the room and seeing him like like making faces like, oh, so like whatever. So, but it's fine. And obviously his results are, we all know what the results are from him, so no one is mad about it. You just get it right, and then it's fine. You won't have any problems if you just get it right.
Weird how that happens.
The notes are right there. Just play them the right way, and then everything will be fine. But it was great. It was great. Jonathan had a really sweet, relaxed vibe in the studio, and just sort of even keeled dude, just kind of hanging out. Like, yeah, man, good job. Like, just cool. Yeah, what's next? And you get a party and be like, yeah, cool. All right, cool. Yeah, what's next? And that was it. And it was It was great. It was super relaxing and just no pressure situation getting it done. There was obviously no pressure anyway, because it's not like we had any kind of label pressure. Like, we just were doing it on our own. We were just going to record it, do it, and then see if anybody wanted to be a part of it afterwards. So whatever pressure was on it was just, we wanted it to sound how we were envisioning the record in our heads.
What was it like, if you can remember, the first take of the record for you playing guitar? I
don't remember.
You don't remember? I was going to say, because
No.
I can imagine here comes the click track, you're about ready to go in on the floor or whatever, and then you're like,
Yeah.
just I could feel like there would be a lot of anxiousness, because it's like, okay, I'm starting this new journey of this new band. You know, it's all these new things that I'm not used to.
I guess maybe I also did the drums on the record because we didn't have a drummer yet. So I had already done the drums. So I guess I was sort of broken into the environment somewhat. I've been in the studio and I tracked and the drums were there. So I guess I had a day or 2 days, I guess, to sort of get over whatever nerves there were around being in a different place or whatever. But yeah, I can't remember what song we did first. It probably would have been one of the ones that I think would be easier to do first, to try to get something under my belt. I can't remember what it was though, but I know when I'm at home and I'm demoing stuff, I just constantly berate myself. Like, after everyone, I'm just like, you fucking suck. And I'm punching the thing, like deleting it. And it's like, are you fucking, you can't even get that right. What the fuck is wrong with you? And I do it again. So that's how I yell at myself when I'm doing all of it. So I was just hoping that I wouldn't do that in front of other people when I was tracking. I don't think I did, but I don't really know.
I think it's so interesting. You know, there was a line in that Set This World Ablaze DVD where you had commented, you're like, I'm not even the best drummer in my band. And I was just thinking, as you were saying, like, I track drums, and I was like, whoever the drummer becomes now, that person can say to you, I'm not even the best drummer in the band, and it's come full circle now.
I'm not the best. No, I'm not the best guitar player in the band either. So I'm never the best. I just got to find bands where I'm at least
second best
at whatever it is that I'm trying to do in the band. It's gonna be hard if I want to play bass someday, because that's gonna have to be a band with 2 bass players, and there aren't too many of those.
I might be putting in the cart before the horse here on this one, but you know, playing live, like, have you kind of thought about how you want, you know, especially with an instrumental record and instrumental music as a whole, I feel like a lot gets put on the presentation in the live setting, because it kind of helps set a mood and a vibe, and is kind of also as much of a part of the atmosphere and everything that's happening, since there are no words or lyrics to kind of guide anyone. Have you kind of been thinking about that, what this band and what the music looks like in a live setting yet?
A little bit. We've had 2 shows so far, so we've kind of broken the seal on getting out in front of people and actually playing. And I don't know. It's like it feels like things like that are things that you need money for, like production or a good light show or any of that kind of stuff. And you know, right now we're just playing whatever we can play on whatever. You know, so far we haven't had any, you know, rough backlines that we've had to kind of walk into, but sure, it's going to happen. And you know, whatever light bulb, you know, 60-watt bulb over your head, the light show. So that's all going to happen. So I think now the main thing I'm just trying to think about is just playing the parts and not looking like a zombie, or looking scared playing the parts, you know, just trying to get so comfortable with it that you're not thinking about it, and you can just be in it, and you can just be relaxed in yourself and not look like an imposter kind of up there. So I'm just kind of struggling with that first. We'll get to the bigger picture of everything later.
Has that transition been for you? I mean, obviously, one of the first examples I can think of someone going from behind a drum kit to being a front man is Dave Grohl. but he was able to pull it off so well. But I think the other thing that makes it a lot easier for people is you at least still have something in your hands, so you're not completely 100% just a front man with nothing in your hands, and you have to figure all of that out.
I wouldn't say that I'm a front man, though. I definitely wouldn't.
No, but I mean, you're more upfront than you ever have been.
That's true.
So how has that transition been for you? Kind of being more of a in the front of things and being, instead of just kind of being a background figure. No, I mean, not to be mean about it, but
no, you're 100% right. Drummers are complete. The drummers are part of the stage props.
You got to build around you, basically.
They're like, it might as well be a backdrop. No one pays attention. They glance at it every now and then, and it's like, oh yeah, that's back there. I mean, especially in drumming and Killswitch, when you got guys running like crazy people all over the place, like there's so much. Everyone's just like, what's happening with all these crazy people? And then I'm just sort of back there, like, so I'll be playing and forever playing drums, and you sort of look out at the crowd, and I don't have to worry about making eye contact with anyone because no one's ever looking at me. So
straight up, the interesting thing, since having Rush be like, me being the one Rush will usually take with him to go see you guys, and befriending Josh over the last handful of years and so forth, is it's been nice because now I actually can see you playing, because from where most of the time I'm able to be in the crowd, either the stages, and I'm not very tall, so it's like either I can kind of just see you over everything, or there's too many lights hitting me, so I can't really see. But it's been kind of nice because I can actually see a lot of what you're doing. And then my only like gripe is that I wish most of the venues you're playing had kind of a way for me to get sort of behind more, so I could actually see what you're actually playing and seeing you play, because you've always been, you make it look so fucking effortless from my perspective. But you play with such force, but it doesn't seem like it either. Like I said, it just seems so effortless when I see you play that I'm always like, I want to be able to see more of it. But typically, even on the screens, when they're doing like the cameras, whoever's got a camera on you, it's like just kind of in front. So even still, it's like almost my perspective of like your kick drums, all your drums, cymbals, and all that. And then it's like, here's a face and part of a torso and arms, and that's all I see. So it's been kind of nice befriending some of the people in the camp and being able to kind of be able to see you more personally. I would like to see you pushed up a little bit more, sort of like what was that tour you guys did where you had the catwalks that went around you, so you were kind of pushed a little bit more closer to the front of the stage to accommodate that?
I don't remember what that was. I sort of remember that setup. I can't remember which tour that was.
But to me, that was a good setup, because then at least we could see you a little bit more up front with everybody else. But
I hate drum risers too. I don't ever want to be on a riser. I want to be on the floor, as close to the floor as I can get.
Oddly, I've kind of, as you just say that, I've kind of thought about the last handful of tours you've done on the cycles, and it's like you're usually never more than like a few steps up into your kit.
Whatever the height of a wheel is, I want that to be the rise.
You don't want to be like Charlie on that Anthrax run where you guys was like way the fuck up there. I
just like being on the ground. I feel uncomfortable up there. I don't like it. I like being on the ground. But one of the main differences that I've noticed so far is when you're drumming and you're really into something and it's super physical, and you're really into something, you have all this great physical energy and release, and when you're playing guitar, it's something you're really into something, and it's like, this is all I got. Like, I guess I could do this, but I don't. I'm gonna miss. I'm either gonna miss it entirely, or I'm not gonna hit the note. This is like, how do I transfer this small motion into being able to feel like being able to let out what I'm actually feeling like I can with drums, when I'm just flailing like a maniac, which is really it's just fun. It's fun to get that out and have all of that come out. So I suppose I could headbang, but I'm old. It's hard. Backwards. Like I have to do like the full body thing, or it's sort of like the bird in the water. Like that's the only kind of one I can really do. Just gotta do this. So
I think that was the funniest thing that was pulled from our last chat, was people being like, who I don't even remember who ran it, was just like, Justin Foley admits that it's getting harder to play Killswitch because he's getting old. And I was like, that happens to everybody. Like,
well, it's not getting easier.
Yeah, it's like, I think everyone, as they get into a sustained career, like, I mean, Metallica don't move around like they used to. Like, a lot of these bands don't move around like that because they can't. And I mean, shit, I mean, most of the guys in your band now, I think, have all had some sort of pretty permanent bad injury, like Adam with his back, and I think you had said you had something with your back or legs or something a while back as well.
It's my shoulder.
Shoulder, that's right.
Mike's knees hurt. Like, yeah, it's just that's the way it is.
Apparently, Joel's the only one that's getting through with no major injuries so far.
Yeah, Joel's doing pretty good. I don't know what his secret is, but he's doing all right.
Must be all the beer he drinks beforehand.
Must be.
You know, speaking kind of different bands and so forth, I had seen Jasta the other day post about, because he bought the rights to Milwaukee Metal Fest.
I saw that.
And first of all, I think that's great. That dude has talked about buying bands or a band or a collection of people buying back old festivals and kind of re-bringing them back, which I think is an interesting concept because it brings it back to music focused. It brings it back to the bands and kind of brings, I think, all these festivals back to what the whole point was to just bring people together for an awesome curation of music. And he had teased, though, who wants to see a Blood Has Been Shed reunion at Milwaukee Metal Fest? And I was just like, could it happen? Like, I know we joked about it, like, you know, that in the time before I talked to you, I talked to Howard and I talked to Corey of all fucking people. And, you know, having Corey having sent some demos of what was supposed to be on the last record, I'm like, could this finally fucking happen? Like, it seems like the people want it. You don't think so?
No, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. Yeah, I hear from Corey occasionally in bursts. You know, sometimes sometimes I don't hear from him for a while, and other times he's calling me every week or so and just talking about stuff he's thinking about. And it's like, all right, yeah, cool.
Yeah,
obviously it's difficult. I live far away. He's super busy working, and I mean, I have all whatever nonsense that I have going on, and Howard is doing like 6 million projects right now, which is awesome. So yeah, who knows? I mean, it would be really fun, and it would take a lot of work to get that stuff ready to play in front of people. That would be one of the things that would just have to. It couldn't be like a sudden thing. Because that shit was hard, and I haven't played that in a while. So it would take some time, and it would take like actual legit long rehearsal periods to get that stuff ready. But yeah, it would be a lot of fun. I'm surprised. I'm very surprised whenever anybody mentions it, though, because we played so long ago. First of all, I mean, I don't know when our last show exactly was, but it was probably either 04 or 03, something in that area. So it's been a really, really long time. And it's not like we were selling out arenas or headlining tours or anything when we were playing. So it's always funny to me when there's interest on things that there was some interest on before, but now it seems like there's more for whatever reason. Who knows? It's like, yeah.
Well, I feel like, you know, you guys played Furnace Fest last year in Killswitch, and there was a lot of talk of, you know, if Blood Has Been Shed was to get back together, it would be something like that, where it's bringing back a lot of old bands. They have a year or so to get together before the announcements and all that kind of stuff to really kind of figure it out, and then it's kind of a surprise for everyone. There's no commitments beyond the one show, so you can just kind of focus on that and let the chips fall where they may, and everyone can go back to doing whatever it is they do and have that one show, which is the whole point of doing the reunion show at a one-off festival like that.
That'd be a great way to do it. Yeah, for sure.
But even thinking back, you know, you guys doing Furnace Fest, what was it kind of like for you guys playing a fest and seeing so many bands that have, you know, kind of gone away for so long? I mean, because, I mean, essentially that's, if a Blood Has Been Shed reunion were to happen, you kind of firsthand got to see what it would be like and experience from sort of a fan and as a fellow musician for some of these people with some of the bands that played last year.
It would have been, we unfortunately weren't there the day Beloved played, or so that was a bummer because I really would have liked to see that. But it was cool. The vibe there was awesome. I mean, yeah, it would be a really fun thing to do. So, but I think you're absolutely right. That would be the way that would happen. That'd be the best way for that to happen, I would say. So I don't know if I don't think, like, I know Milwaukee Metal Fest would be cool. I remember being a kid, I always wanted to go there because I was way into all the Scott Burns bands, like everybody that went to Morrisound, that liked all those bands, and they all played Milwaukee Metal Fest, and I was like, oh man, someday I want to go to Milwaukee Metal Fest. So it is cool that he's doing that and turning it into a cool thing. Yeah.
I think it's weird, being almost 40. Like, so by the time this comes out, like, I probably already said I'll either have fast tracked it or whatever. But Thursday, I'm supposed to talk to you, one of the two organizers of the Kentucky Irate Fest. That's just been basically a shit show, and it's been kind of funny because I've kind of gotten off social media quite a bit. So like everything I see is in like weird spurts just on whatever I'm on. And so I didn't even know this is a thing. And it wasn't until going through a friend's band that I'm working with's email. And I kind of was just seeing this exchange of like, okay, here's what's going on. Da, 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 da. Then bands are dropping. So it's like, hey, we're going to refund you your buy-on. We're going to move you up to this, on these other things, to then now it's canceled. And I'm like getting all this information in a matter of 5 minutes of reading this and then going like, what the fuck's going on? So then going online and seeing at least what's being reported. And, I was talking to the guy that now runs Lamb Goat, and he was like, yeah, this thing was doomed. Like, look at the location, like all these other things. And I was like, I mean, if we're going to talk about location, I mean, like, look at half of the Hellfest. Look at half of, like, you guys played Dirt Fest when it was, like, way bigger, but it's like Dirt Fest was literally called that because it was on fucking dirt stages. Look at Warped Tour when it first started. All these things we look back on and hold in such high regard for the metal and hardcore scenes for what they became. They all started pretty meagerly and in kind of things that might be laughable in the beginning. And I think we forget that, for a scene that we're so supportive of, quote unquote, because it's underground and we want places to have a place to go and be welcomed and all that kind of stuff. All we do is as soon as someone tries and maybe doesn't succeed, we just are so quick to tear them down. And I'm like, why? Like, why do we love something so much but just shit on it so fast? Like, and I feel like that's music and that's metal and hardcore in a nutshell, is like, I love it, but only the way I love it. And if it don't, then I fucking hate it and I tear it down. And it's like, you ruin everything that you love.
Yeah, it's a lot of that going around. I definitely avoid the internet as much as possible. It's the only way to be sane.
How is it? Because I think you now have an Instagram, if I'm not mistaken.
I do.
How have you found that to be? Because I would imagine the music industry is kind of weird, because like I'm always kind of low-key jealous of people like Daryl from Glassjaw is not on anything. Most of the Glassjaw dudes are not on anything. They exist in real life as people, not as these things presented on the internet. But I feel like so many bands nowadays have to, like, you have to get an Instagram, you have to do these things, you have people telling you what you should and shouldn't post and all this kind of stuff. Do you find it to be kind of weird now to start getting a social media page and kind of traversing through all of this, after it's been however many, probably a decade at least, of you not really having something?
Yeah, I had one for my cats a while ago. That was just a cat one. So I got, I was just posting cat pics and basically following other famous Instagram cats. That's pretty much what I did with that one. And then I kind of eventually snuck bands into it. So it's a good way to watch what other bands are doing and see what they're doing and just keep up with what tours are happening, that kind of stuff. But that's pretty much it. And then I stopped that one. And then when it was pretty much when I knew that this Lybica was going to start, that I was like, okay, well, I'll just start one again. I want to get some eyes on this project. And if I start one that's actually me, maybe I can get some eyes on that one too. But I'll keep it kind of low key. I won't really have a whole bunch of stuff on there. It's not like a private one, so it's just sort of open. But I don't know. I just sort of did it just to put it out there, and I don't really feel like doing a whole ton of interaction on it, really, if any. I just sort of want to have it, and then I can still watch other Instagram cats and see what the Instagram cat world is up to, and then still check on other bands. And then occasionally, when Killswitch has some cool stuff, I'll just post about it. And when Lybica has some stuff, I can post about it. And then maybe some people that are into Killswitch will see it. I don't go into this thinking, oh, cool, this band's going to do great because I have this giant Killswitch audience and everyone's going to love it. Like, I'm not crazy. I don't think that at all. I do think that I'm lucky that I'm going to be able to get some eyes and some ears on it that it wouldn't normally have if I was just somebody starting a band from scratch in a different situation. Like, luckily I have another sort of platform that people know about. So, that's cool. So why not, why not just mention what else is going on? Why not say, yeah, I got this going on too. Anybody like, is there any crossover people that like instrumental, post-rocky, post-metal music? Check this out. Maybe you'll dig it. If not, whatever. It's fine. Don't get mad. So it does feel like we have to do stuff, and it's just like, I don't know how to do good stuff. I don't know how to do good content other than, animal photos. Kind of it. So, we try to put stuff up there, and then we have obviously the band has its page as well that we try to keep up with, and it always feels like we could be doing more on that one. But I don't know. I'm not like I've never been a huge social media person to begin with anyway. So it's just sort of not natural for me to just have an idea to put something on there or have really good ideas that end up being really big posts that everybody sees and likes. So
I think that's the thing that's always kind of drawn me to you. And I guess kind of drummers as a whole. Like, I feel like they're often overlooked because of either someone wants to talk to the singer or the guitar players or whatever. But I always feel like it's always like a lot of drummers are really quiet and soft spoken and kind of to themselves. And I find
the
that really
loudest, most
interesting.
obnoxious instrument.
Yeah, but that's like kind of the weird thing. Like, and same that I've kind of found with, a lot of, like a friend of mine, Fox, that was in the band See Next Tuesday, he's this like little short dude. He very soft spoken, doesn't really talk a whole lot. And then he like is in this grindcore band and just goes apeshit. And you're like, that's totally the opposite dynamic of who you are in your day-to-day life. So I always think it's kind of interesting, this duality that different people have. And like I said, like, the few things that you do, especially, if it's Instagram or whatever, the few things that come out about you, I always am like, oh, what's going on? Because like I said, you're so mysterious. Like, a lot of your band is not, you still kind of have a foot in the old, where it's like we don't know anything about you unless you want us to know about it. And I think that there's some sort of intrigue in that, because I mean, that's sort of the era we all grew up in, where it's like, other than whatever the press that the band was willing to do, that's the only access we had to them. Whereas now it seems
fine.
Like, yeah, 100%.
Right? That's fine.
100%.
That's fine.
But then you have now where everyone's like, all right, it's, I have to post at this time, and I have to do these things, and, I got to create good content. And you're seeing a completely different type of I guess musician, but you're seeing a different type of way that the industry is making bands be. And I don't know if it's going to go full swing back to the old way that it used to be, or if it's going to be once like the Tools and people like yourself and some of these other band people, once they're kind of gone or done, I don't know if it's ever going to go back to that way now that we've lifted the Pandora's box off of it, the lid off the box, I should say.
Yeah, maybe. It's sort of, I mean, I've kind of seen it happen where people that do a lot of posting, fans kind of feel like they're your friend, and it's a little strange, like with people you've never met kind of feeling like they're your good friend. And it's sort of, I'm a little socially uncomfortable with people I don't know to begin with, so it's not exactly something I'm aiming for. So I don't know, I just sort of try to keep it where it is right now. I don't know, but I do want people, I do understand that it's a good way to get people to listen to what you do, and that's always been. There's a weird kind of contrast in that. I don't want to be out there, and I don't want to be like putting all my info out there and everything. Yet I do want everybody in the entire world to hear the music that I make. And that's how it always is when you're playing music. When you're with like the first time you ever start a band and you're in your basement, you want people to hear it. You want people down the street to hear it, and then you want people in the next town to hear it. And it just always, you always want more people to hear your music, and that's just always the way it is. Now there's this new method, not new, but the social media is like another way to get that out there. So there's the person that wants to stay, there's a shy person versus the person that wants everyone to hear the music that they're making. So those guys are going like this a lot.
It's funny, while I'm not saying like I'm already over this new record, because I just literally got the advance of it like 2 days ago. But what's interesting to me is you've said it a couple times, like you have two people who are new at the instrument. So I'm really excited to see what the newer stuff starts sounding like now that you're a little bit more comfortable. Maybe you're getting a little, like each of you is getting a little more like, okay, I just learned how to do this new thing.
Yeah.
And I'm bringing this to the table of what, Lybica can be. So I'm interested to see where the band goes with some of the stuff they're writing. And I think what's interesting about this, and with it being on Metal Blade, maybe this will kind of not be the case, but it seems exciting because it's new and it's kind of a smaller band. And so usually you can kind of get away with like, I know we just put out an EP or a record, but here's some new stuff. Because like we're trying to build and grow, so we want to constantly be on people's radar. So you might be able to get
Do you mean playing live?
No, I mean just putting out music, like as you're getting it done.
Music.
Because I think that's the hard thing, and something I've really been fascinated with is, with thinking about the we'll call it a record cycle. So by the time you're putting out a new record, like, it was really interesting thinking actually about the last Killswitch record. As soon as you guys are starting to tour again, everyone's like, so you guys writing new music since you've been off for like the last 2 years? It's like, we barely put out the last one and we only got to do like 2 fucking dates on it. And then that's it. So like, we haven't even been able to celebrate this last record we did. And then now here you are, seeing the news, like the new record's being recorded. And, it's this thing of thinking about how by the time we are hearing the quote unquote new record, you've sat with it probably a year and a half, 2 years, and you're kind of already over it, but you're writing something else that has been inspired by literally what you're going through now. And so we're always playing catch up as fans versus you as the artist. Whereas sometimes I think with a smaller, newer band, it's always fun because you can kind of go along on a sonic journey a lot faster as it's actually happening. And so to me, that's where with Lybica, I think I'm a little bit more intrigued and excited, because if you're able to do that, I think it'll be interesting to see the growth happen exponentially so much faster than every couple years.
I think, yeah, I see what you mean. We've had 2 shows, like I said, and on this last show we played a new song that's not on the record already. This one's not even out.
Yeah.
So yes, there is new material, and one of the things with all the songs that are on the record that's going to come out on September 16th, which is very soon, and I cannot wait because it seems like forever ago that we recorded it. But that was done with like we recorded that record. Like I said, I played drums because we didn't have a drummer, so we made a record and we still weren't a full band. We were mostly a band, but we still weren't a full band. Like we couldn't go play a show yet because we literally didn't have a drummer, and we were playing, practicing all of those songs with the demo's drum tracks, just playing over a speaker, and then the rest of us playing along to it. And figuring out, but a lot of that stuff is kind of written before, or written kind of before-ish and during that process, but still, we hadn't even really done a whole lot of playing in a room together. So that obviously changes how things go, and it changes how you think about what the band is and the dynamic between people playing and everything. So you're exactly right. There's kind of a different feeling after you do that for a while, and bands grow and bands change all the time. And I feel like we've already kind of started growing to where some of the new songs that we have are, that I think we sort of have figured out a little bit more so what our strengths as a band are, even though this record still isn't out. It sounds crazy, but I feel like we have maybe even a slightly clearer picture of what we can do well, and we can kind of focus on what we're doing well, and taking things that way, rather than doing a lot of cool stuff, but not really like finding your footing, sort of, like finding out what's going on, which is also a super fun thing to do and a super exciting thing to listen to. It's great when you listen to early bands records and they're finding their way, and especially when a band turns into something and then you listen back to where they came from, and it's really interesting to hear them finding their way, and like, oh, I can see where an album 4 records later comes from by like this song. Like they must have liked that and explored that avenue and then took it somewhere else later on. So that's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to just see what happens in general. I mean, I'm dying to go out and play. I'm dying for this to be out there and for people to be able to hear it and check it out and like it or hate it or be indifferent, whatever. I mean, it's there.
I think what's interesting, I just kind of thought of this. It's interesting now everybody has at least one other band that's in Killswitch, and I think what's interesting about it is how diverse and different everyone's projects are. I mean, Brothers Born, Joel's project, I remember when I found that, everyone was like, it's not what you think it's going to be, but it's interesting because I can hear a little bit more of Joel's influences on different stuff in Killswitch.
Oh, yeah.
Same with Adam, with between Serpentine Dominion and Even Times of Grace. It's like, okay, you can kind of hear some of the other elements that he's bringing now with this.
Serpentine Dominion's fucking awesome.
100%.
Yeah, it's fucking great.
But it's interesting to see how all the pieces of all of you fit now into the band a little bit more, and you're the last piece of the puzzle kind of having your own thing. Granted, you had Blood Has Been Shed, and a lot of people obviously know that, but I don't really feel like there's not really room with everything that's being done for a Blood Has Been Shed type influence kind of to come in. But it's interesting with this Lybica record, there are things where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm wondering if Justin wrote this guitar part. I'm wondering if Justin maybe helped inspire different parts of different Killswitch records. Like, I'm wondering now, Reject Yourself is one of my favorite songs. Potentially, did you write something on drums or maybe have a rough demo that informed that song to become what it became, or some other songs on some of the other records where you're kind of bringing more, like you said in the beginning, more ideas, more rough demos to everybody. And I'm kind of interested, like I said, to really dive into this record and kind of figure out more of where you fit and what the parts you're bringing to Killswitch that maybe I've never noticed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder. Let me know what you find. I do remember Reject Yourself, though, was a demo that was unfinished when we started tracking drums, and we tracked everything that we had finished. And we had an extra time at the end of it was our last day, and we had extra time or whatever. And I really liked, and it was Adam's riff, that first riff of the song, and I loved it. And we had a lot of it worked out, but we just couldn't figure out how to end it. And Adam and I took that extra time to sort of figure out how the rest of the song should end, and then kind of put it together, and then did the drums, and it worked out great. So in a way, you're right. That ending sort of came from I guess that influence of just having large, epic, spacey stuff. We don't do a lot of that in Killswitch. It's like high energy onto the next part, which is great, which is also super fun to do. But I also love bands like Cult of Luna, where they just sit on something forever and it just goes really slowly and builds, and then by the time it gets up there, you're like, oh my god, how did we get here? This is awesome.
That's even thinking about the way that song ends, it's such a great album closer. It's such a and it's kind of weird because it almost bookends the album so well with how the album starts with like the way that the guitars come into the beginning of the record, because you can almost kind of see one fading out back into the back into the beginning. And it was always one of those, I was like, oh, they must have had these and known that these were going to be the bookends to the album, and like all this arrangement, and that's why the track listing works so well. And to now hear that, it's just like, oh, it's so crazy that like it literally was kind of we had a day left. And to me, like, it's nothing against the rest of the record, but like you said, there's just something an unintangible about that song and the way it just is, and like, you know, the bridge and the way it kind of floats at the end and the outro to it and all that. It's so unique unto itself that I remember hearing it for the first time and just falling in love with it and just being like, okay, so like, is this where we're going moving forward? Like, is this kind of a sign of what's to come? Like, holy shit, where are we going with this? And sadly, as of now, it hasn't happened yet. But I always love to hear stories of like some of the weird outliers on records and where they come from. And is it you? Is it somebody else? Like, how do they happen?
That just reminded me that when we were doing the Alive or Just Breathing tours, where we played the whole record, and I had nothing to do with that record before me, but I remember I said to the guys, I was like, hey guys, did you plan that the first line of the record is the time approaches and the last line is the time has come? And they're like, we did. It is. They had no idea. And I was like, oh, it works great. Good job, guys.
It's so weird in doing this, like, you know, getting to talk with different people of different records. Like, we're all notice weird nerdy shit like that. Like Finch on Say Hello to Sunshine. I was like, so you guys use this bridge riff on this one song, and then you made it the main verse riff of Ink, like 2 songs later. And they're like, we did? I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, didn't notice. I was like, you how do you not notice that? That's like, especially as a songwriter in the lyrics who's got to write the lyrics over that. Like, how did you not realize that the cadence or the things were the same? It's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, and then it's so weird to like, something that we as fans will sit there and study and listen to for hours and hours and months and years and all that kind of stuff, where it just becomes so ingrained in us. It's so weird to find that like these things we've built up in our heads as to how they must have happened are usually nothing more than just, I don't know, just wrote it.
I just thought of it. Whatever.
I mean, it's, like I said, with this record, being like, oh, are these old demos? Some was new. I don't know.
Yeah, some are old, some are new, some happened very quickly, some happened over a long period of time. It was all the whole spectrum.
What kind of last question I have for you, so I can let you get back to your day. What are you looking forward to most with this release finally being out? I mean, it's been kind of under wraps, quote unquote, for so long for you. So what does it feel like to finally have this out, coming out soon?
It's just I want to play. Like, I really have a bug for playing shows. We want to get out there and play. It's and like you said, kind of, or like how you were asking about what the live visual is going to be. I don't know. I want to find it. I want to find what that is, and I want to see how going out and playing is going to influence what we do going forward. Because I don't know. Like, we have some stuff written that we assume will be on the next record, but who knows? Maybe none of it will. Maybe by the time it's time to record, we'll have a whole bunch of other stuff that we like better, or yeah, I don't know. So I'm curious to see how actually getting out there and playing in front of people on a fairly regular basis. I don't know if it's ever going to be a full-time touring thing. Yeah, I don't know if you can have 2 full-time touring things, but I have no idea what kind of tours we're going to get offered. Yeah, that's a good point.
He's got like 3 fucking bands.
3 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like what kind of things we'll get offered, if we'll get offered. So just whatever we do playing, I think, is really the next thing that is going to dictate what the band becomes and where it goes. And I'm just sort of curious to see where that is going to be. And I think getting the record out and having something to support is kind of the next step in figuring out where it's going to take us.
It's weird. I just was kind of thinking how inspiring it must be. And I mean, from my perspective, it feels inspiring to hear you. I don't want to say be reinvigorated about music, because I don't think you've ever fallen out of love with it. I think eventually it just becomes like anything where it's a job and it just is.
Yeah.
But I think it's, a lot of people I think would rest on the fact that it's like, I have this and it provides everything I needed to. But the fact that you're, kind of starting over essentially with something new, and kind of the excitement and the unfamiliarity with this thing, I feel like is very exciting, and it's very, I guess exciting is the word. I guess it's inspirational, because I mean, I think it kind of gives, for some of us who are older, that, don't be afraid to like go do something new, like, or to challenge yourself to try new things, because you might find new passions and new things that you're excited about.
It's my midlife crisis. This band is my Corvette. Is that I'm already bald. It's been bald for a while, so this is what that is. It's me trying to figure out what to do in my midlife. No, it's cool. It's cool. It's there's a lot of times where I feel I've been reminded of being like a young kid getting into drumming, because I've never been much of a gearhead with drums, other than like when I very first started and was like 15 or whatever, mid-teens, and like finding out, like wanting to know what all my favorite drummers played, and dreaming about having their kind of drum kit and all that kind of stuff. And so now now it's sort of like seeing what all these other guys are playing, and seeing all their gear. And it's the last time I kind of had any kind of gear envy, I guess, would have been way back in those days when I first started drumming. So it's an interesting thing to all of a sudden get hit with that again, which was very unexpected doing this. But that's another fun thing about it.
Last thing I'll mention, just because I know it would feel disingenuous to not bring up something Simpsons related. I've been going back through and watching a lot of the newer seasons that I had missed entirely. And there was an episode that I was like, holy shit, this is real dark and real weird for a Simpsons episode, but I really loved it. I think it was called The Trouble with Flanders Part 2, where they went back and basically, spoilers, I guess.
Whatever, I'm never going to watch it.
Oh, really? Are you only, like, I'm only watching up to this? Oh,
yes,
really?
Very much so. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, it was one of those, I figured so many people are that way, where it's like, it's only good up to like season 12 or season 8 or whatever, I'm like, someone's still got to be watching it if like they're, 20 seasons beyond, where people are like, it never got better than this. And there was one, I think it was called The Trouble with Flanders Part 2. And it's almost like a Coen Brothers movie, but done in a Simpsons show. And it's like an hour long, I swear. It was not a normal like 25, 27 minutes. I think it was like 40 some odd minutes or an hour. And violence and like all this kind of shit. It was very interesting. I was like, low key, like I know they probably couldn't do this all the time, but like maybe make it like a Treehouse of Horror type thing where you do it like once a year, just this like really out there episode.
Right.
And I was like, I think a lot of people would really enjoy like kind of these different types of takes on the characters that they know, because it was just a really interesting take on old characters that you haven't seen, or like digging further back into Ned Flanders' like childhood and so forth, where it's just like, he had to lie to someone, he had sex with someone, just shit like that. And you're just like, but he's compromising himself all in the hope of like doing right in the end. And so it was just really interesting to see this character who's been so like on a line the entirety of the show, and now you have all these new dimensions to him where you're just like, wow, okay, like where else can we take some of these people and these characters that we've known for 3-4 decades, whatever at this point.
Guess what you got to do when you're running episode 900. Like what are they up to?
I don't know.
Something absurd. Yeah, who knows?
That's interesting though. I kind of thought you guys, or at least you, were more of the like, it's kind of comfort food, I'll just watch all of it.
No, I haven't seen an episode in forever, and it's really funny to think about how long it's been on. And I probably started tuning out sometime around 14 or 15. I haven't really checked back in, and I've sometimes had people say like, "Hey, I know this is a later one." They always qualify it with a note, but it's good. You should check it out. And sometimes I'll check it out, and it might just be a stupid thing where I just don't like the way it looks in HD either. It kind of bugs me. That could be part of it, but yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. It's probably just no rationale to it whatsoever. I just can't get myself past those first 12 to 13 years.
What is, okay, I guess I'll throw this then to you. What is the comfort food episode maybe for you? Whenever it's on, you're always going to watch it. Like, it's instantly quotable from start to finish. It's like your favorite go-to episode. Do you have one?
Just one, huh? Man, is that tough.
I think mine might be from the old season, might be the grimy episode.
Yeah, speaking of dark, right? Yeah, that one was like...
Would my face have been red? No, you wouldn't have a face.
That one's great. I always loved... Whatever happened to that guy?
Yeah.
It would be maybe... Homie the Clown might be one of them, because that one is just so good. I feel like I randomly think of things from that episode quite. Is
that the one where he becomes one of the crusty?
He goes to Clown College and
then he kills the guy, the Hamburglar.
And
is that episode?
Yeah, he's already
stop
dead.
It, Mister. He's already dead.
Yeah, we got the bicycle through the loop, and
he pulls his pants down.
Yeah. Speed holes in your car that make it go faster. It's just got so much. It's crusty betting on the Harlem Globetrotters because he thought they were due. Just like insanely funny stuff.
Oh, that reminds me. I think. Oh, fuck, I don't remember if that's the episode airing tonight. I think it's Netflix they've been doing a weird sports documentary series. The first one they just put out was with Manti Te'o and the girlfriend that didn't exist, which actually was really good. But I think one of them, and I think it's either tonight or it's next week, they're doing the Tim McDonough or whatever from the NBA, the referee that got caught betting on his games.
Yeah.
They're doing a whole thing on that. And my wife's like, Tim? I was like, oh, that will probably be crazy.
What's it called?
I think it's called Uncut or something like that. It's on, like I said, it's on Netflix or Untold. It's Untold. The first one, like I said, is Untold, the story of the girlfriend who didn't exist, and it was basically all about how Deadspin had found the truth about Manti Te'o's girlfriend who died not really existing ever.
Yeah.
And then this whole hoax surrounding it, supposedly. But they talked to the person that was the girlfriend and Manti Te'o now, and it's weird. Just when I was watching it, I was like, man, what happened? I feel like that dude's career just never took off, probably because of that. Do they talk about that? Not really. But the whole rest of it's just fucking wild to the story leading up to everything. It's so good. So I imagine these other ones, they're only doing 4. So it's I feel like they pick good stories. They're doing them and making sure that they're worthwhile. I think another one they're doing is the rise and fall of the N1 mixtape basketball league thing that they did.
Yeah.
My wife's like, what was that? I was like, oh, that was huge back in the day. The first time amateur athletes were put on a pedestal on the level of pros for basketball. It was crazy. But I know,
check it out.
I know a lot of people who do this. A lot of people are like, oh, I fucking hate sports and I like music and all that. But that's why I do too. Who do you got for basketball this year?
NBA?
Yeah. Unless you're college. I fuck with college.
I'm more college. Yeah, I'm more college than NBA for whatever reason. I went to UConn, so UConn all the way.
Ray Allen, right?
Yeah, Ray Allen. Went to school with that guy.
Did you really?
Well, he was at UConn when I was at UConn, so in theory, I went to school with that guy. But yeah,
you went to school with Jesus Shuttlesworth. That's cool.
Absolutely. And Richard Hamilton, bunch of
shit, rip.
But yeah, so NBA, I'm kind of out of the loop. I very loosely follow. My real good friend, our Killswitch tour manager, is a massive Suns fan. So
sorry.
I'm hoping. I always hope. I want him to be happy. So I really want him to be happy. So
he was happy-ish last year, I'm sure, until he wasn't.
Happy-ish. He was even happy-ish. He's never completely happy.
I mean, are we ever?
No.
There we go.
Never.
Well, thank you. Oh, I guess the last question I always ask, even though I'm pretty sure you're just going to go to an Instagram page, but where can everyone find you, or whatever you would like to plug online?
Yeah, I will plug all the good music stuff. I mean, Killswitch stuff, it's super easy to find. Look out for that Lybica record on Metal Blade, September 16th, which is really coming up soon. I'm super excited. Lybica Band at Instagram. I think Lybica Band is at the other socials too. You'll find it. We just had our 4th video, I guess, which is more like a visualizer than video just the other day for one of the songs. So about half the record is out there anyway.
I mean, you're not putting out a lyric video.
I kind of wanted to do that. I kind of wanted to put out a lyric video.
Just like on like karaoke. 182 bars.
And just have like parentheses that says music as the lyrics the whole time. But check that stuff out, and hopefully we have a few shows in Florida coming up. That'd be super exciting. We're stoked that we're on Fest, which is like a huge whole weekend thing in Gainesville. So we're going to play that, which is going to be really fun. And we're playing a show. Killswitch has a off date headliner in Albany that Lybica is going to play, which is going to be super, super fun.
Excited to pull double duty?
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it.
Are you? I don't think I asked this when you said you play live shows. Do you have microphones on stage, or do you just literally play?
No, we do, just to say hello and goodbye.
Okay.
And Doug's the one doing the hellos and goodbyes.
Okay.
So far. We talked about maybe just sort of mixing it up, but so far Doug's doing a pretty good job. So, but he was also saying that he should have a microphone up front and just every now and then pretend he was going to sing something and then just sort of not sing something. Everybody's just waiting. They're probably all looking. Everyone's just staring at him, waiting for him to sing because the microphone's in front of him. It's never going to happen.
I'm excited to hopefully see you guys play somewhere around here in the Midwest at least.
I would love to.
And I'm hoping. I think I saw a vinyl pressing of this record, correct? Right?
Yes, there will be vinyl.
All right. Is there a test press that'll be up for grabs at some point?
I don't know. I haven't gotten one yet.
Oh,
so
fair enough.
Hopefully it all came out fine. So we'll see.
Well, hopefully we'll see lots of interesting cat merchandise out of the band.
Oh yeah,
and cats everywhere.
Everyone loves cats, right?
That'll be your guest list only on when you show up to cities. It's just famous Instagram cats.
Yeah, absolutely. If you are into the band at all and you have a famous Instagram cat, message us and you're free ticket to any show forever, anywhere around the world. Nathan the Beach Cat in Australia. You guys want to come to the show? Go right ahead. Suki, kitten faces. What else can I plug? Great Grams of Gary. That's another real good one.
Who's the cat on the album cover? Is that your cat?
No, it's one of Joey's cats.
Okay. I was trying to figure out. I figured that had to have been yours.
No, it was one of Joey's. It's a good picture.
I guess that'll be a fun thing too for upcoming variants down the road. You can just have different cat variants.
Yeah, that's true. We could.
Different eyes, different colors. Yeah, I really hope you explore the full realm of catness for this band. For everything you do.
I wanted vinyl, like cabbie vinyl.
Oh, okay.
Like the stripes and everything, but it didn't exist, apparently.
Oh, I'm sure that's when you get on the phone and go, "Hi, do you know who I am?"
Anybody out there pressing vinyl that has cabbie variant, let us know. We'd love to have it.
Actually, I just read something yesterday because Dan from Zeo was posting about how he wanted someone in Detroit or who was going to Detroit to go pick up the new Dope Smoker record that's coming out, the repress, coming out on Friday. But the weed, yep. And obviously it's not shipping because you can't ship it. And a related article I saw to it was someone had just created a plant that was going to help solve the vinyl shortage that's happening, or the delays in vinyl, because they figured out a new material that they could use. Excuse me. Instead of, I think, PVC or whatever, it's like some kind of a urethane or something, and it runs 40% faster to produce a record than how they have to make records currently. And I was like, oh, so now I'm thinking maybe like you could be like, hey guys, can you make a tabby one?
Let's do it. We'll cut down on that time. That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, enjoy the rest of your day. I won't say go Yankees. I
You just did.
No, I said I won't.
It was there though. You said it.
Yeah.
You said the words in a row. You said the word go, followed by the word Yankees in a row.
Yeah. It's funny. When I was in St. Louis, I was looking at shirts and I realized my love and fandom of the Braves goes so deep. I can't even buy any other team's shit when I'm at another stadium. I was like, can't do it. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm sure I'll see you around.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
So that was my conversation with Justin Foley, again, of Killswitch Engage and Lybica. That record won't come out for about 2 weeks as of when I'm dropping this, but I can't wait for everyone else to hear it. It is a very good album, and like I said in the intro and kind of said in the actual chat, I think it's showcasing a different side of Justin than we've all seen before, and you know, I love seeing that. I know it's funny having booked a lot of side band things. I know that a lot of fans don't follow the side bands. And it's kind of, I think, a detriment to the fan base as a whole, because I think it really does then allow you to see where everyone's influences actually come into the band that you love. And I think it's interesting. I mean, like, you know I hammered on Reject Yourself. That is hands down one of my favorite Killswitch Engage songs. And I always, it's such an outlier of the band's discography, but I think showcases what the band could do to really push their sound in a unique, interesting way. And to hear that it basically just kind of came together because it hadn't for so long and then finally did is really interesting to me. That it was essentially almost left on the cutting room floor. Like, you know, even the end of Heartache, I remember on the DVD, the band basically being like, that Adam had that riff, like, you know, when they were demoing it, they just had that riff over and over and over again. They didn't know where it was going. And to think now, Killswitch without the end of Heartache as a song, like, you couldn't fathom it. Like, that song is massive. It took that band to a whole nother world. I honestly thought Reject Yourself was going to be that same kind of song for the band, and obviously has not done that for them, but it's interesting to find out how close songs were to not making it on a record, or how easily they came to be, or, you know, just the background stories of these things. I find infinitely fascinating. I am interested to see what happens with this Blood Has Been Shed thing. Obviously, between having Corey, Howard, Justin on twice talking about Blood Has Been Shed, you know, it's weird. I know that band when they existed and played around was not big. You know, it's very interesting to see a band just become larger than life after the fact. And, you know, not many bands have done it, but I think the thing is at the time it was just, it was a band. You know, everyone knew Blood Has Been Shed. They were great. And if you knew, they were kind of that band's band, that musician's band. So many of us love that band. And it's funny, though, because I feel like with Botch actually releasing that new single this past week, you know, Botch was that band for a lot of people, too, where it's like, when they were around, people loved them. They were a respected band. But I think that their lore grew once the band was gone, once people found them, once people, you know, saw other bands that, you know, the guys would end up becoming and playing in. Botch had this legacy that just grew so big that when they finally are, you know, putting some stuff out, they're reissuing stuff, I think they're experiencing more success now than they ever did when they were actually around. And I feel like Blood Has Been Shed is in that same kind of category where it's like they were respected when they were around, but then they broke up because obviously the band basically went and, you know, joined Killswitch basically with Justin and Howard. But it's one of those where I think in light of bands that have come in the scene and the style getting heavier and heavier, you can go back and listen to those Blood Has Been Shed records and they still sound as relevant now as they did then. Because actually, I would say more so, because there's more bands that sound like them that have success. And so to me, it's one of those where in the day and age where no band is ever officially done. Everyone kept saying Botch will never come back together. There's never going to be any new Botch material. Don't count your breath. Don't hold your breath. And here we are. We have a new Botch song. Granted, apparently it's the only one we're getting, quote unquote. There is no reunion, quote unquote. But I would be willing to bet we're going to get a Botch reunion. Maybe not new material, but I bet we're going to get a small run of Botch shows. No one thought Misfits were ever getting back together. We have Misfits. No one ever thought Refuse were getting back together. We have them. So I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I would say with Jasta teasing it, owning the rights now to Milwaukee Metal Fest, him being tight with Howard, and the rest of the guys probably being a little more open to it with a lot of the fanfare that has been happening. Honestly, I'm going to toot my own horn here because of the show with me getting Corey on and him talking about, the last record that never got finished and where he saw the band and all that kind of stuff. I feel like if there was ever a time for a Blood Has Been Shed reunion, the stars are aligning. It should happen in the next year or two. I think something like Furnace Fest really is resurrecting the want and desire to see a lot of these bands reunite and play. And it's not like, they have to come back and play a fucking, 200 plus dates, playing to 60 people. It's a one-off show. Maybe you do a couple of shows around the area and that's it. That's all that you have to be committed to. And I think that that's a lot easier for everyone to kind of wrap their head around than it is for anything else. And, I hate to say it like this, to make it a monetary thing, but I think enough of these festivals have the money that they can pay these guys enough to make a decent payday for them to do it. And we've seen that again with Refuse, again with Misfits, again with, Furnace Fest getting some of these bands to play these, seminal albums. So for me as an old, metalhead, hardcore fan, whatever, to be able to see some of these bands that I never got to, that's what all of this is about to me. That's what's so fun about the idea of these festivals coming back, that, Furnace Fest and Milwaukee Metal Fest, and hell, maybe Hellfest will come back at some point. But to see some of these festivals come back and reunite some of these classic bands to play these seminal records that we all hold so dearly, that's what has me excited for a lot of, some of these older bands. And I honestly think Blood Has Been Shed can put out that record that they've been sitting on, and I think it would still be as much of a mind fuck as it was then. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to because what does it matter? Corey did send me a demo of some of the stuff that was going to be on the next Blood Has Been Shed record. It is fucking insane. Like take the craziest shit you heard on the other two previous records. Doesn't hold a candle to the demo I got. And what I got is a demo. So no vocals, no nothing. Just keep that in mind. Like, it is absolutely insane where this, apparently the next Blood Has Been Shed record was gonna go. But I am very optimistic for the future of that band. I know as a longtime fan, I am very excited to hopefully see them come back. And honestly, like I said, I'm very excited for this progression of Justin's musical career with Lybica. And I know, and I hope a lot of people actually take the time to listen to it. It's very good music. I think it's something that I'm excited to take in a couple of different capacities, as I've talked about, where, you get the experience of driving with it, driving at night, listening to it in, by yourself in headphones, like with other people, like just immersing yourself in the music, because I think that's what it deserves, especially instrumental music, where it can kind of be an accompaniment to so many different parts of your life. So check that record out. Again, comes out on September 16th. And to start wrapping this episode up, if you would like to follow Lybica, you can find them at Lybica Band on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you would like to keep up with Justin, you can find him at _justin.foley._. You just see basically photos of his cats and some musical stuff here and there. If you would like to keep up with the podcast, it's simple. You can find us at Brew Speak Pod on all of the socials. If you would like to support us monetarily, you're more than welcome to do that if you would like. You can head over to patreon.com/BrewSpeakPod. We have a lot of different content up there. You get access to all the episodes well before anyone gets to hear them on the normal feed. There's other side podcasts and so forth, and some playlist explanations and some other stuff I've been doing over there. A lot of content over there if you would like to support us that way. If you would like to email me, you can do that at brutallyspeaking@gmail.com. Send me suggestions for guests, some suggestions about the show, whatever. Reach out. Love to hear back from you. And lastly, in wrapping this episode up, if you would like to support our sponsors, that would be greatly appreciated. They support us. They help keep this show running. Thanks to Rockabilia. Go to rockabilia.com. Use our code BRUTALLY at checkout. Take 10% off your total purchase order. The Bean Bastard. Go to thebeanbastard.com. Pick up some delicious coffee. They have handmade soaps. If you're in the Buffalo, New York area, please go check out the brick and mortar store. They have the same delicious coffee, really great little breakfasty type foods and so forth, and just a very cozy coffee shop environment. And last but not least, On Point Pomade. Use our code BSP15 at checkout. Take 15% off your total purchase order. And for the Brutally Speaking podcast, I am John. And you know what? I'm not even going to tell you what I have coming up next. I have dropped so many episodes this last couple of days. I'm going to give you some time to get through those. And I'm going to keep making more episodes. So be on the lookout for those. Thank you so much. This has been fun dropping all these episodes so quickly. It's been exhausting, but it seems like all of you are enjoying them. And I'm excited for the next handful of chats that I know I have coming up. And until then, have a great week.